Hey everybody, today we're going over the different upgrades that you can do to your Beretta 92 or your Beretta M9, mainly focusing on the Langdon Tactical options, but some of these options go for Wilson Combat as well. I'm lucky enough that I have most of these options available throughout my collection of Beretta 92s, so I'm going to be able to give you a tabletop first look at the differences between these. We're going to go over barrels, porting, sizes, NP3, carry bevel, RDO, Beretta Compact Centurion full size, all the good stuff, different trigger options. So if you're a Beretta 92 or an M9 fan, stick around. This is going to be the comprehensive option guide. All right, everyone, let's start off by talking about different barrel options here on the different Berettas and what you can expect. So first off, you have the option of getting it ported. So Langdon does kind of like, I think it's called like a V6 or a 6-spot port on their barrel. It looks like it's pretty well done. Everything's Cerakoted back up afterwards. If you're really going for the softest shooting, this is probably your option. I'm not really sold on the ported barrel yet. I'm going to have a few more range trips in comparison with these to see. For me, it doesn't feel like it's worth it yet, unless you're going for the absolute softest shooting gun. If I was going to carry this or do competition or anything like that, I wouldn't go with these because you might get put in a different competition bracket, and then I just still think about debris getting in there or anything like that. Maybe I'm blowing it out of proportion, but that's just how I feel. So if you want the softest shooting and you're probably going to do mostly range stuff, or let's say this is just a bedside gun, then ported is the way to go. You also have the threaded barrel, provided Langdon has some of these in stock or whatever at the time, I'm not sure. But you could send in an M9A4 and then have the threaded barrel on here. Sticks out a little bit. This is the full-size M9A4. And it comes with a protector, so if you want to run a suppressor, that's your option there. Now let's get into some of the more minute points. So this is a crowned barrel. So what they did is they cut the barrel back to where the slide is, basically, and then put a taper on it. What does this do? Really, it just looks cool, and it protects the threading on the barrel a little bit with the recession crown on it. But without that crowning, here's what this is my kind of stockish Centurion, but that's what you can expect. Like that, the end of the barrel will stick out like that. Or for example, on this ported one yet, it still sticks out a little bit. There is a slight recess in there to protect the threads. But, the crowning thing, I went with it just because I think they look cool. I like the way it looks. I like how it lines up with the slide, that sort of thing. So those are your different barrel options. All right. Now we're going to start talking about the NP3 coating and carry bevel and kind of those options that come with Langdon. So the NP3 coating, I definitely think it feels smoother. I have it on this gun here. I have it on a Beretta PX4 from them as well. It feels a little bit smoother. You really have to be looking for it to notice it, to be honest. So you might not, I don't think you need the NP3. But what I will tell you about is if you pick the carry bevel option, the NP3 is included. And I'm a big fan of the carry bevel. So if you don't know what a carry bevel is, you can see right here that they kind of round off things on this so you're not stabbing anything, poking anything, that sort of thing. But the big one for me is here. You see how that's all rounded off? When I grab it with my hand, I don't feel any like hot points on it. So if you're not familiar, if you haven't gripped a lot of Beretta 92s, I've actually went ahead and took the edge off on my Centurion. And I use like some Aluma Black, probably need to put a little bit more on there. But basically this was giving me a hot spot right here where I dig in with my hand to get that really high grip on it. And it was digging in there, so I ended up doing that myself. Does it look as good as Langdon's job? Absolutely not. But if you wanted like a more aggressive carry bevel than Langdon's, you might do it yourself. But let's just show you what that stock looks like. So right here you can see, and I'll try to get it right up there, but there's like this point right here, and that really digs in. Like if I shoot this all day, you can see right here where my thumb meets. That point stabs into you a bit. And then just the points on the front of this are a little bit sharper and more jagged. You can kind of feel that. So the carry bevel, they knock all that stuff down, they reduce the edges, and then you can see back here, that point doesn't exist because they took that down. So I think the carry bevel is a very comfortable option, and it's not going to be like some Bubba hack job like I potentially did on this. Maybe you guys think this is all right, but if you're spending a lot of money on a gun, you probably want it done right. You want it done by them. So I think going with the carry bevel option is actually what I would recommend. And you get the NP3 coating with that. So on the 92, I'm a big fan of the carry bevel. Let's go on to the next item. All right, let's start talking about sizes. So this is going to be your full size without a crown barrel. And we'll compare that to, see if I can line these up well. The Centurion right here on the right, and the full size on the left. So you got a little bit longer. It's not much. So we have the full size, the Centurion, and the compact. The compact, I would say no to right off the bat. Why? This is my hand on a full-size grip. I wish there was a little bit more ledge even here. For a full-size grip, this one feels pretty short. With a compact, I don't think I'm getting my pinky on there. Sure, I have, I would say, above average size hands, but at the same time, people with regular hands have also complained about the compact. I think you need the full-size grip personally on the Beretta 92. But the other thing I wanted to show you, and I'll move this around here so we can get a better look at this, is if you get a full-sized with a crown barrel, it's only that much longer than a Centurion. So it's like, if I line that up, those are drastically close. You can see the slide itself is a little bit longer here, but where the barrel is, they're pretty close. So to me, it's why go with the Centurion and just go with this crowned, I think. The Centurion would have a little bit lighter slide, a little bit less mass, but at the same time, I think, one, this looks cooler. You're probably going to be able to find more holsters for it, that sort of thing. The Centurion, I don't think that makes up a big enough difference in carrying that you really need to consider the Centurion. Some people complain about the balance, the weight, that sort of thing. I don't notice it. I think this with a crown barrel is fine. I like it, that sort of thing. And then obviously if you get the threaded barrel, it's going to stick out a lot longer. But the size, I would avoid the compact. And unless you're a known Beretta super fan already, and you know that the Centurion is what you want, I would go with the full size. Just my 2 cents. Now we're going to be talking about the triggers. So I don't have the short reach trigger in my possession. I don't usually have an issue reaching the trigger. I would say that I can get pretty much up to that first elbow on just a regular M94 with the heel on there. But what I wanted to talk to you all about is this right here, this Volker trigger that you have the option of getting put in there. I'm not sure if you just have to include it in your comments or something, but there's like a nice texture on it. And these straight triggers in double action, they act like a fulcrum. So you start pulling and it just kind of rolls real easy. It feels like it takes a lot less strength or a lot less weight to get through that, to roll through that. And then the single action on these is amazing because you get that flat wall and then break. So the Volker Precision trigger is probably my most recommended upgrade if you're going to get a Langdon 92. This trigger is absolutely amazing. And if you're saying, hey, Randy, well, what about just the standard curved one and the weight on that? So I have this as well on the Langdon LTT 10th anniversary. The Volker trigger, I think, is just so much better. It just feels quick, feels responsive, feels smooth. I don't think it's that hard to reach. But if you have really, really small hands, maybe the short reach trigger is your go-to. I think if you have normal size hands, not getting this Volker trigger will be your biggest regret. And now let's talk about the red dots itself. Pretty much the biggest reason for going Langdon is the red dot system in the plate. So to show you kind of what the top of a Beretta red dot mount looks like, there's not much real estate that it's holding on to if you buy a plate. It's got kind of like a tongue and groove setup on top of this. Where on here, I believe I have the 1171 plate, and this is probably one of the lowest plates besides like the Dila. If you get any of like the stock Beretta or some of those standard plate brands, it's going to sit a lot higher than this. So if you can see, you're sitting in those grooves and then above those grooves about that far. Now, if we pull up, let's say this one, you can see that it's sitting at, when you, like it's cut down into it, and then the red dot actually sits lower than the top of the slide in there. And they give you an iron sight on the plate so that you have backups. If you choose their option, you get the backup suppressor height sights or co-witness sights, whatever you want to call them. So you get the co-witness there. And then on the EPS, they're a little bit shorter, but one of the options you can do with sights that don't stick out forward, so the SRO kind of shift forward, is you can get rear sight forward options now with Langdon. So if you look at that, you can barely see the rear sights, but they're there if you need to co-witness or if you need to use backups, anything like that. Whereas here, bump my camera, you definitely see them looking from the back. But if you're looking at your dot, I don't think it's that big of a deal to have rear sight back here. But if you want an SRO or the new Siley that I really am liking, or the RMR HD, or any of those that stick forward, you're going to have the sight back here on the plate. So the option is, one, do you want a more secure system that sits a bit lower and kind of LTT's bread and butter? I think the RDO is worth it because you're already spending a decent chunk on these plates. I want to say they're like close to 100. Like the Dilas are like 125, I think, or even more potentially. It's a lot for the good plates for a Beretta. So if this is, let's say, 275 or 300, and it comes with the plate, like I'm a big fan of it. I think if you're into shooting red dots, you should get that. If not, you can get Dawson fibers like are on this and just have iron sights. I don't think it's a huge disadvantage, but this is definitely, the red dot is definitely faster and definitely easier to tune. If you have to adjust iron sights, it can be annoying. So yeah, that's where I stand on red dots. If you've gotten this far, I hope that this video was valuable. I hope that if you're choosing to upgrade your Beretta 92 or M9 series or anything like that, that you have a better understanding of what you're getting into, which different options are available, and which ones you might want to go with. Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.